and welcome. So last week I posted a video on Annemann, and in the comments section, Tony Witt, who I appreciate. Thank you, Tony, for commenting. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you very much. Tony left a comment. He liked the material, but he asked a question, and I love questions because it gives me an opportunity to specifically address a concern that you have. So if you have a question, if you have a concern, ask it below and I will address it in a future video, or I will address it by email, or I'll address it in the comments section depending on what it is. But Tony said, so Tony's question is this: give me some must-have books for the novice. Now he specifically asked for books, and I'm going to modify that just a little bit and make recommendations for the novice magician. Recommendations for the novice magician. Now, let me address the issue of books. You can see that I'm surrounded by books. So I do have some books to recommend. Books that I've recommended before. I'm going to recommend them again for the novice magician. But when I was a kid, I would go down to the Yogi Magic Mart where Phil Thomas was the owner and proprietor. Now, years later, I would go to the Denny and Lee Magic Emporium where Denny Haney was the owner and manager. And they both had the same philosophy. Now, Phil Thomas, these are Phil Thomas's words. Read books, my boy. You see, as a kid, I would go out and do chores. I would cut lawns. You name it, I did it to get money, to go down to the magic shop to buy magic. And what I wanted to do was buy a prop and bring it home and do it. And Phil Thomas was always telling me, you need to buy books. And there's a reason for this. And let me explain the reason. And if you get this, if you really understand this, your life as a magician will be dramatically changed. First of all, there's value. Books are the best value in magic. Let me explain. If you buy a prop, you're probably going to pay anywhere from $20 to several $100s for that prop. One prop, one trick. One trick. If you buy a book, you've got a reservoir. You've got, I don't know how many, 20, 30, 50, 60, 70 for less than the price of a single prop. Now here's the thing. I've been doing magic for 50 years. I'm actually 51. I'm 59, and I started when I was 8 and did my first performance when I was 8. And I've been collecting magic, and I've been collecting books ever since. So my library, which you see me surrounded with, over here, back there, downstairs in boxes, my library is vast, but it didn't happen overnight. It happened over the course of 50 years. So you really need to keep that in perspective. Magic can be very expensive. If you buy books, you're getting the best value in magic. Now, there's a second reason why you buy books. The second reason is this, and this is something that's often misunderstood about books. Books, as a general rule, now the Mark Wilson course in magic is practically video because it gives you point-by-point illustrations of what you're supposed to be doing. Most books aren't exactly like that. Most books are a little bit more like Tarbell here, where you're getting a lot of text. Why does that matter? Why is that important? Well, when you watch a video, and I'm actually going to recommend some videos, but when you watch a video, you're getting an interpretation. Let me use a music analogy. Let's say I hand you sheet music, just music. I don't tell you what it sounds like. I don't tell you what the title is. I just hand you the music. You're a musician, you know how to play the piano, you know how to play the violin, you know how to play the guitar, you know how to play, you know how to read music. So you read that music and you're interpreting. What does it feel like? What does it sound like? You're bringing an interpretation to the music. This is what musicians do routinely. You can hear the same song played by two different professional magicians, and while the melody is the same, the interpretation is vastly different. Well, in magic, we have a lot of imitators. We have people who will watch Michael Amar here on this video. They'll watch Michael Amar, they'll watch him perform, and they'll do the trick the exact same way, with the exact same pattern, the exact same movements. Now, Michael Amar has particular personal movements, just like we all do. And if you interpret if you imitate those movements, you're an imitation, not an original, and that's going to damage your career development. That's why Denny Haney and Phil Thomas recommend books to video learning, because you're forced to interpret the material for yourself. Yeah. 2 reasons why you want books as opposed to videos. Number 1, it's the best value in magic. Number 2, you're forced to interpret the material and come up with your own presentation for it in most cases. So now some books will give you patter. I don't necessarily recommend that you use the patter in the books. Again, you want to bring everything you possibly can that's unique to you to the table, so that you are carving your own path, and you want to do it from the beginning. You might be thinking, I'm a novice, I'm a beginner. The earlier you start doing this, the better off you're going to be in terms of your development. Now, another point about books, and I'm guilty of this. This is why I can say this. I have a huge library. Some of the books in my library I have not read. I hate to confess that, but it's true. Some of the books I own I've not read. I've read through them, I've read chapters, but I haven't read the whole thing cover to cover. You must own the book. In my opinion, you must own the book. You must own the book so that you can highlight, write in the margins. You're going to want to do that. I mean, I have many books that I've marked up and take notes inside of them. You want to be able to do that. You want to be able to highlight, dog-ear the pages if you want. I never dog-ear a page. I don't do that. But I do highlight. I do take notes in the table of contents. I write notes in the margins. I do all that stuff with my books. So you want to own the books. Second, you want to read the books. Books that sit on your shelf will do you no good at all. So once you've made the decision that you're going to part with your hard-earned money and purchase a book, I want you to read that book from cover to cover. I really do, because there's going to be gold in it somewhere, and you might not find it if you don't get to the last page. So read that. If you've invested the money in it, you paid for it, read the book. Number 1, own the book. Number 2, read the book. Number 3, apply the information you've learned. It's so easy in magic to read material. Say, oh, wow, that would make a good trick, huh? You read the material, but you never practice it. You've got to rehearse that. You've got to study it. You've got to rehearse it. You've got to practice it. Then you have to go out and perform it. Then you have to revise it based on performance information that you get. That's how you develop material. So you've got to apply what you learn. If you don't own the book, if you don't read the book, if you don't apply what you've studied in the book, it does you no good to own books whatsoever. This video will be a complete waste if you don't read and apply what you learn in the books that I'm going to recommend. So that's my 2 cents worth on books. Having said all that, I'm going to make some recommendations that are not books at all. But let me get back to the novice magician. The first thing I'm going to recommend, and I've recommended this before, I recommend that you watch every performer you can, especially live performances. There are going to be opportunities. Look through the newspaper, look on the internet, look in Facebook. You're going to find opportunities to get out and see a live performer. Do that. You're going to learn so much more by watching a live performance than you ever will by watching a YouTube performance. YouTube performances can be edited. If I'm a performer and I'm putting something up on YouTube, I want it to be pretty strong. So I might not edit the material, but there are other things I can do to enhance that presentation that I can't do live in person. You want to see live magic as much as possible. Having said that, There's lots of magic available on YouTube, and you should watch that too. I prefer live magic, but I watch a ton of YouTube performers, of magicians who have put their material on YouTube, and I learned so much by watching that. I talked about, I'm going to be doing a presentation with Doug Henning. You can watch every one of his specials on YouTube. David Copperfield, you can watch every one of his specials on YouTube. So it's a resource that you need to avail yourself of. Now, let's get to your question, Tony. I appreciate your question. Let's get to it. You said, give me some must-have books for the novice. I have recommended this book before. I'm going to recommend it again. If you are a complete beginner, if you own no magic and you own no books, buy this book. Mark Wilson's Complete Course in Magic. I think, I should have checked the price before I made the video. I think you can pick this up on Amazon for like 20 bucks, 20, 25 bucks, something like that. I don't know, but it has chapters on rope magic, chapters on coin magic, money magic, card magic, mentalism, all in here. Some of these routines will give you material that you will use for the rest of your career, I promise you. So this is a wonderful text. The first time I bought this book, I think I might have mentioned this before in a video, this used to be a vinyl spiral bound binder. So you could open up a spiral bound, it would sit flat, and it came with all the material you needed to do all the tricks in the book. It was a kit. It was a complete course kit that came fully loaded. Phil Thomas talked me into buying this when it was first published, way back in the early 70s. Phil Thomas talked me into it. I had that book. I don't know what happened to it. I really don't. I mean, I went through a lot of change. I went on to study for the ministry. I did a lot of things. I've been in and out of magic over the years. I don't know what happened to that original book, but I did pick up the hardbound version, and that's all that's available anymore unless you're looking for an antique. But it is very much worth your while to pick up the Mark Wilson Course in Magic. I highly recommend it. Now, every novice magician, in my opinion, and you may disagree, but I think that you should begin with a solid history of magic. I recommended this book before in another video. I'm going to recommend it again, The Secret History of Magic. There are many, many histories of magic. Milburn Christopher wrote a history. There are many histories. Let me tell you why I recommend this as opposed to the others. The other books, in my opinion, and this is an ideological opinion, okay? You may well disagree with this opinion, and I respect that. But the other books have an ideological disposition which looks back in history and presumes that our ancestors were stupid. Stupid in the sense that they couldn't tell the difference between real magic and prestidigitation or performance magic. It assumes ideologically that real magic doesn't exist, and therefore they must be imbeciles. I mean, it doesn't come out and say that, but it's condescending, and it represents an ideological bias. And the bias it represents, in my opinion, is materialism. And materialism presumes that all that there is the material. Well, you know, I don't have that ideological position. I think that our ancestors understood the difference between performance magic and real magic, and I think that there was and is real magic, that miracles happen, that we live in a world and in a universe that is vast, and that encompasses the world religions that we have and that we enjoy, and I just don't have the ideological position that there is no such thing as real magic or miracles. I just don't. So this book treats history respectfully of the belief systems of our ancestors, where the other books do not. And so I think that ideological position sets this book apart. Not to mention the fact that Jim Steinmeier wrote it and was a co-author of the book. So and he's one of the great geniuses of our time. So I believe that you should read a history, and I believe it should be that one. Unless you just don't have that ideological position that I've just expressed, then by all means get Milburn Christopher's History of Magic and read that, because it's quite good. I've read all the other histories, and it occurred to me as I was reading them that there was an ideological bias in them, and I just kind of filtered out for it. But here you don't have to worry about that, because at least if you have the position, the ideological predisposition that I do, you're going to find a kinship voice here in this book. So that's the reason I recommend it. Once again, The Secret History of Magic, The True Story of the Deceptive Art by Peter Lamont and Jim Steinmeier. Highly recommend that to you. Now, in addition to the Mark Wilson Course in Magic and a good history, I cannot recommend biographies more highly. Now, I've been doing this for 50 years. I've been doing it a long time. And when Mike Caveney began to publish biographies, Denny Haney knew how important the history of our art was to me, and it is to him as well. And he said, Dave, I can get you these books, and I can set one aside for you upon publication. Just say the word. And I said, absolutely, Denny. They weren't inexpensive, but they're more expensive now that they're out of print in many cases. In many cases, they're not. What I'm recommending is not a particular biography. And don't get that impression. What I'm recommending is that you read the biographies of magicians that you admire. Maybe Houdini, maybe Bartier de Colta, maybe Carter the Great, maybe Blackstone. And by the way, the Blackstone biography is up here. I've recommended this book to you before. This book is about $38, and it's still available. And it's the Blackstone biography. Highly recommend that to you. But I'm not recommending any particular biography. I'm recommending that you read biographies. You will learn so much. You might be saying, well, I want to learn tricks, but you will learn. You will learn not tricks. You will learn how to be a magician when you read magicians' biographies. This particular one, Bartier de Colta, was one of my favorites. But look in the book. This is number 923 of 1,000. 923 of 1,000. In other words, there were only 1,000 of these books ever printed. And this one happens to be number 923. Mike Caveney, when he produced the book, he did it this way. And so many of his are hard to come by. This one of my favorites is Carter the Great. It was actually written by Mike Caveney. Now, many of them are published by Mike, but they weren't written by Mike. This one happened to be written by Mike. And let me see. This is number 352. You see it right here. Number 352 of 1,000. So again, these are very limited edition material. Now, I've been to Mike Caveney's website recently, and I'll put the link below. It's called Magic Words, Mike Caveney's Magic Words, and I'll put the link below. But I've noticed that a number of these are still available. There are some that you can't get, it's true. And if you look on, say, eBay, you can find them there many times, but they're kind of pricey. But a lot of these books are still available on Mike Caveney's website, so I highly recommend that you go and take a look at them. Yes, you might be thinking, I'm a novice, I'm not sure. Please, read biographies as soon as possible. It will teach you a great deal about performance magic if that's what you're interested in doing. All right, biographies. Now, it's perfectly acceptable to be a hobbyist magician. And by that I mean you want to read books, you want to practice a few magic, maybe you'll do a trick or two at a family gathering, you're not really sure if you want to be a performance artist. It's okay to be that. That's not okay for me personally. It's not my choice. I want to be a performance magician. I want to be out there working. I want to be doing shows for people. I want to be getting feedback from a real audience, not my family members, but a real audience that's paying me to come in and entertain them. That's what I want to do. If you will read this book right here, The Show Doctor by Jeff McBride. Now let me give you a little bit of information about Jeff McBride. Jeff McBride at this point in his life sees himself as a mentor to magicians, as a teacher, as a sage. And he is. He is one of the most creative, one of the most talented, one of the finest performers of our time. He's taken the time to write this book for those who want to do magic as a performance art. And if you will read this book carefully, and if you will apply, remember what I said, own the book, read the book, apply the lessons in the book. If you will apply the lessons in this book, I promise you, you will save yourself years of aggravation, frustration. You will cut years off of your learning curve if you will read this book and apply the lessons. Now, Jeff McBride, in addition to having written this book, which is going to be one of the great treasures of our art, moving forward, generations to come are going to look back and pay big money for this book because it will revolutionize your performance. That's how important this book is. Now, right now, Jeff has a school in Las Vegas called the Mystery School. Dan Eckert, who I interviewed a few months ago, went out to that school and studied with Jeff McBride personally. And he says, and you go back and check that video, he says it was one of the most important things he ever did. So, you can read the book, buy the book, read the book. If you get an opportunity, go out, enroll in the Mystery School, study under Jeff McBride. It will change your life. But this book I highly recommend if, and hopefully you do want to be a performance artist. If you want to be a performance artist, that's the way you need to go. The Show Doctor. All right, let me give you some other book recommendations, and then I'll go over to video. I can hear Denny saying, no, not video. And Phil Thomas too, my mentors, my friends. But let me just say this, folks. I'm a visual learner. I am. You know, I understand how important it is to interpret material out of a book and bring your own personality to it. I can do that even with the video instruction. But anyway, I'm going to get to that last. Now, the Tarbell Course in Magic. You know, I debated. I left this off the video. I left this off the table and then put it back and then took it off and then put it back. I'm really torn about recommending it to a novice. There's 8 volumes. This is one volume. 8 volumes. I still think that the Tarbell Course in Magic needs to be in every magician's library. I still believe that the Tarbell Course in Magic is foundational to everything that we do. But for the novice, the Mark Wilson Course in Magic will get you started and make you happy. This will frustrate you. It will frustrate you. The material is not easy to master. It's not easy to understand. There's a wealth of material in here. It's great material. It's performance material. There are magicians who have donated almost their entire shows to these things. So they're must-haves, but for the novice, it's challenging. Now let me share with you something that makes this a little less daunting. Penguin Magic. Dan Harlan of Penguin Magic has done literally every trick in the book, and they've put it on video. Now the great thing about this video series available from Penguin Magic is that it doesn't just do the material in the book, it updates it. Dan Harlan brings his professional experience to the table, and he gives you so much more than what's in these books, while at the same time he presents literally every trick in the book. Now, if you buy the videos individually, you pay $15, $20, $25 for each individual download, and they are available for download. But if you buy 10, you get them for $10 each. So it's 10 for $100. And that's the way I acquired the series. And I'm really glad I did. So I recommend that you buy the books. I also recommend that you go check out Dan Harlan's work over at Penguin Magic and download that series because it makes a huge difference. Now, this book is called My Best by J.G. Thomson Jr. My Best, J.G. Thomson Jr. The material in here is absolutely stunning. Zen's Cards Across, which was a regular in Denny's act, is in this book. The exact method Denny used in this book. Now that's just one trick. That's just one trick. This I don't even know how many tricks are in this book, but like every page, there's an effect, and every effect in here is called My Best for a reason. And you get the best of all worlds here, man. You're not seeing it on video. You have to interpret it, but it's very clear descriptions and instructions for putting these effects together. I have taken so many effects out of this book, and you know, you can tell a good book by where it is in your library and how many times you go back to it. I come back to this book over and over again. I really do. Once again, it's called J.G. Thomson's My Best, a collection of the best originations conceived by eminent creators in the inventive field of 20th century magic, compiled and edited by J.G. Thomson Jr. I just really, seriously, that is an amazing book. Now, one more book that I feel is destined to become a classic, just as Tarbell has, just as My Best has. I believe this is going to become a classic. It's called The Conjurer's Anthology by Jim Steinmeyer. Once again, another fantastic Jim Meyer contribution to our field. The Conjuring Anthology contents. Really, seriously. Now, what happened here was Jim wrote a series of articles for a magazine, a magic magazine, and he compiled them here in this one book. But here's the thing about commercial magic, and I'm not saying that this was done here, although there is an effect I have in mind. But I have purchased magic effects from dealers, and I get them home, and I open them up, and I read the instructions, and I kid you not, the instructions are mimeographed or photocopies of pages from books. That's why books are such a great value. Here I paid as much for that effect as I would have paid for the entire book, but I got one effect instead of the literally hundreds that are in this book. So think about this. This is for material. The Conjuring Anthology by Jim Steinmeyer. Highly recommend that. All right, so I've recommended that you watch shows. I recommended the Mark Wilson Course in Magic. I recommended all these books. And Tony, your original suggestion was, or your original question was, name the must-have books for the novice. These, in my opinion, are the must-have books for not only the novice, but any magician. So if they're not in your library, go look for them. And by the way, My Best, very affordable. Most of these books are available and affordable. Now, let me give you some video recommendations that I think will contribute a great deal to your development as a performer, if you're a novice or if you're any level of magician for that matter. This is a series of DVDs that was produced by Michael Amar. I think Michael Amar, in generations past, we had Di Vernon, who was the professor. He was the one who taught and mentored magicians. I believe in generations to come, we'll look back and see Michael Amar as this kind of person. Michael Amar was mentored and trained by Di Vernon. But he's gone so much further. And by the way, this series, it's called Easy to Master Card Miracles by L&L Publishing. Easy to Master Card Miracles by L&L Publishing. And I have right here, I have 9 volumes. I think that's correct. Yeah, 9 volumes. And there are 9 volumes and literally 10 to 15 effects on each volume. Now what Michael Annemann does is he'll demonstrate the effect in front of a live audience. He'll demonstrate the effect. And then he'll go back and explain it in minute detail. I mean, it just, these things are so, you know, what magician doesn't enjoy card magic from time to time? I mean, it's not my specialty. It's not what I do. But I love watching Michael Annemann perform. I love watching these DVDs, and I've done so much magic from these DVDs. In fact, there's an effect that I call Baseball in Heaven, but it's basically McDonald's Aces, and it's right out of these DVDs. And you can take a look at it below because I recorded it, and it's right here on my YouTube channel. So, L&L Publishing came up with a series called Easy to Master. Now, this is the Easy to Master Card Miracles. Michael Annemann has also done Easy to Master Coin Magic. And then there's Richard Osterlin, who did Easy to Master Mental Miracles. And I believe there are 4 volumes, about 10 to 15 effects on each volume. So, and again, I to this day, I perform material that I got from these. Now, let me be clear. I don't perform the material the way Richard Osterlin presents it on this video. I don't. I've made it my own. I brought my own presentation to it, and that's what you need to do when you're watching these things. But if you're interested in mentalism, Easy to Master Mental Miracles is where you really ought to begin. Now, one other video recommendation. There's a series of DVDs. Again, this is by L&L Publishing. Same people that published this. Same people that published this. L&L Publishing also did a series called World's Greatest Magic of the World's Greatest Magicians. I only pulled 4 of these off my shelf, but I have almost every volume that was published, and I'm thinking 25, 30 volumes or so. I could have brought Tarbell out here, and I could have been underwater with books and videos to recommend. I could have been, but I left all this stuff on the shelf. But let me just share a few of these with you. This one is Coin Assemblies, or the Matrix Effect, which I think is a classic. By the way, there is a wonderful coin effect, or coin matrix, right here in the Mark Wilson Course of Magic. And I performed this particular coin assembly for probably 10 years. 10 years. But on this one DVD, Al Schindler, Bill Malone, J.C. Wagner, Harry Allen, Aldo Combini, Michael Annemann, Johnny Thompson, Dan Fleshman, Dan Harlan, Derek Dingle, and Ross Bertram all present their version of the coin matrix. So what you do with something like this is you watch the video through. You see all these professionals doing their interpretation of a single effect. All these people interpreting a single effect. Then you can literally take the best parts of every presentation you saw, combine it into a unique routine that is uniquely yours, and have something that no one else does. That's what these videos will give you. This is the coin matrix. This is Wild Card, one of my favorite effects, Wild Card. Now again, the contributors here: Steve Dacre, Tommy Wonder, Harry Allen, Eric DeCamps, Boris Wilde, Darwin, and Scotty York. Scotty York doing Wild Card. So it's just fantastic. This one is Cups and Balls, Volume 1 and Volume 2, Cups and Balls. They will teach you how to do the Cups and Balls, which Houdini said you can tell a magician by the way he does the Cups and Balls. I mean, it was a standard for Houdini. It's been a standard for centuries, and it still is. If you're a magician, you should give some thought to coming up with your own cups and balls routine. Tony, I hope I gave you some material to think about. For those of you who are watching, I hope I gave you some things to think about. If you're a novice magician, God bless you. You are embarking on a wonderful journey that I believe will bring you much happiness, not only for you, but if you choose to be a performance artist, you are going to bring wonder and happiness to everyone that you perform for. You are embarking on a wonderful journey in a wonderful art, and I wish you the very best. Folks, if you like what you see, please subscribe. Please comment down below. I love your comments. As you can see, this is in response to a comment, and I will respond to yours as well. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Take care. I'll see you next time.